Recently, a realtor with the initials JK from the Inland Empire, or the IE, who lives in San Bernardino County, shared a story that happened back in 1996. He and his wife had left home early while it was still dark, and as they made their way to the highway, something massive bolted out in front of their car. Before JK could stop his car, he hit it, and he hit it hard. He first thought he had hit a giant dog and was going to get out to check on it, but his wife felt something was off and begged him not to get out of the car, but he did anyway. He got out and he walked to the front of the car, and there on the ground was something he could not make sense of. It was not moving, so he got in his car and backed up to get a better look at it. His headlights were illuminating something massive and bulky, something canine that was clearly not canine. Quote, "It had what looked like a lion's mane. It had teeth, like it came right out of a Hollywood horror movie. I can't even begin to describe the fright I had in seeing this thing." Then in the report, he remarked again about its teeth, its massive teeth. Blood was pouring out of its mouth and it wasn't moving, but its massive amber eyes were both open and faced right at JK's direction. Neither him nor his wife could determine what this massive beast was, but it was not a bear and it had a canine's head. JK backed up and drove around it. He told his wife they would investigate it when they got back later on in the day, and it was light. However, when they returned, it was gone and there was nothing there but a giant puddle of dried blood. They never witnessed this thing again until recently. JK and his wife still live in that same house as when they first saw it. He had just finished showing a home that was down the street a little bit, as he's a realtor, and after the couple that was checking the house out had left, he went around to make sure the doors were locked before he left. He got in his car, it was around sundown, and as he began to back up, a massive hairy canine humanoid ran right behind his car. Quote, "I estimate that it easily stood at 8 feet in height, and it had a very human-like gait when it was running." This unnerved JK so bad that he decided to find out what it was that he had witnessed, and he left his account with a Dogman reporting site. He made his report in January of 2023. A couple of weeks later, a person followed up with the initials PS and left their account to support this realtor's claim. PS had grown up in the Devore area and claims that numerous people in the area had witnessed dogmen in the hills on the north side of town. When he was about 14 years old in 1998, he had returned home from a Battle of the Band show in Corona around 1 or 2 in the morning. Instead of going into the house, he went around to the side to take a leak and smoke an old cigarette butt he had hid there. As he stood there, he saw a figure in the field nearby, but it made no sense for anyone to be there, especially that late. This humanoid figure was walking in a really creepy fashion, and after a bit began to run. His eyes at this point had fully adjusted to the moonlight, and he could tell that it had unusual legs, but the giveaway was, quote, "Then I noticed it had the head of a dog, like a coyote or a German shepherd." He was disturbed by the way it did a running gallop along with its features. It went north into the San Bernardino Mountains. Years later, he shared the story with a tribal member of the San Manuel tribal band of Mission Indians, who told him he thought he had witnessed one of their medicine men by the description. Now, there's also another story that's surfacing around on the internet of 2 men that had a couple of sightings back in 2008. They were exploring a section near Redlands, California, with numerous little lakes and ponds. Through locals, I'm pretty sure I've located this area, and it's these 8 little lakes in Oakland, California. So these 2 men from Redlands went out exploring the small chain of lakes. Now, the very first one they'd found, they went up on this ridge above it. It had just recently rained, and the ground was all muddy, and there in the mud was a set of tracks that was leading off into the brush. They were able to observe these tracks for about a quarter mile. They claimed that the tracks were about 24 inches long. That's 2 feet. The 2 men tried walking beside the tracks, and they found the gait to be spaced out way more than their own, and both of them were around 6'4". So they dubbed the creature that had made these tracks the lake ape, as they were certain they had just found evidence of a Bigfoot. They returned several times after this looking for the creature or more evidence, but with no luck. The lake ape was able to remain elusive to any more traces of its existence. They did manage to discover a few more of the lakes, though. One of the two men got so bored one night he decided to go out and investigate this area alone in the dark. As he neared the area, a dark figure bolted out in front of his car. He described it as being a tall, dark humanoid, and then it scrambled up a 5 to 6 foot berm and ran up the hill. At that, he turned around and went home. After telling this to his friend, they returned to the scene to reenact the encounter. From the reenacting, the eyewitness was able to determine that this thing was much taller than he thought. The one friend secretly doubted the other's story, but as they stood there looking up the hill at the tree line, they both noticed a figure closer to them. It was covered in brown fur, but it was no ape. They distinctly saw in the daylight a 7 to 8 foot tall humanoid figure covered in brown fur with a canine-shaped head perched with pointy ears. It was similar to a German Shepherd or a wolf-like dog. That was the last encounter that these two had with the Dogman. However, because they were from Redlands, this report has been recorded as the Redlands Dogman online, even though it took place up in Oak Glen. So if you're ever in the Southern California area and you want to investigate for dogmen, all of the sightings that have been on Facebook and reported to Dogman sighting groups has been located in the Foothills, sandwiched between the city and the mountains. Remember to never trespass, always get permission before you enter any land. There's plenty of wilderness, so that shouldn't be a problem. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this episode. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and until next time, we're off on another adventure. God bless.